for Media Watch with Emma James. Emma, you've been taking a look at one of our top stories today. That's, of course, a transition of power in Cuba and how that's being viewed both online and in the media.
Yes, and all that talk of transition, but very little talk of real change. And I think it speaks volumes that one particular American news channel was tweeting out this image today, which really sums it all up. It's an image of Fidel Castro, just an outline of him, but it's instantly recognizable, even though it's just that. And really, his shadow hangs over everything still. The Castro name still hangs over everything in Cuba. Certainly looking at cartoonists in Cuba, there's not too much optimism, really, that there will be much change. Clearly here, every direction points towards socialism, and this one has a particularly degenerate-looking Cuba handing a bowl with a cigar that says Castro rule, as though that is all that's available to the people of Cuba. And this image, too, a particularly grim one, where Miguel Diaz-Canel, who will be the next president, is depicted as a donkey attempting to drag forward Fidel Castro's vehicle with Raúl sitting inside, and you can see it's missing a wheel, so it's going nowhere fast. Looking at reactions on Twitter, it's fairly mixed, but this, I think, probably is one of the most optimistic, which shows you not all that optimistic, really. Not sure what's coming next, but today marks the first time the island will be ruled by someone without the last name Castro. This gentleman, though, says the retirement of the dictator and the naming of a new president is nothing more than Cuba's version of kabuki theatre played out for the media. Now, looking at some of the international coverage of this, the New York Times has this opinion piece from Christopher Sabatini, and he talks about the fact that although the image of this man may be radically different, we really can't expect much in the way of change. Although he's portrayed as modest and modern, that basically amounts to the fact that he rides his bicycle to work, he's a fan of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, not all that modern, and he uses an iPad. He is apparently cut from the Castro cloth, he says, and he links to an article from last year, which talks about a video that was filmed secretly during a meeting in which Miguel Diaz-Canel, the soon-to-be president of Cuba, rails against human rights activists and foreign embassies for subversion. Language, of course, that is straight out of the Castro playbook, so really not too much change there. Now, this article comes from Diary of Cuba, and it says Diaz-Canel is little more than a scapegoat because what Cuba needs is an overhaul of its economy. They talk here in particular about unifying currencies so that everything is paid for in pesos. And they say that Raúl Castro basically has passed the baton and said, washed his hands of it almost and said, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want this to be my legacy in case it all goes horribly wrong, so let's hand it over to somebody else to deal with. The Wall Street Journal raises an interesting issue because the thawing of relations between the US and Cuba was thought to be a very positive thing, but they say that actually the regime was so scared of Barack Obama's popularity within Cuba that they became frightened of the idea that people would want more economic freedom or liberal politics, and so they actually started to clamp down on entrepreneurs and new businesses, so it actually pushed Cuba further backwards.
All this in a country where they still have billboards that bear the slogan Socialismo o muerto, socialism or death. You just mentioned Barack Obama there, Emma, and he's been making apparently some unexpected remarks, which has caused quite a buzz online, but it's not quite as it seems, is it?
No, definitely not. We have fake news, we have Photoshop, and now Buzzfeed is trying to say to us that we can't even trust the words that we see or think we see coming out of people's mouths, especially in videos that you see on social media. They've created a video. Take a look at what Barack Obama supposedly had to say.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things. President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. That's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources.
Now, Buzzfeed says that you are looking at the future of fake news and propaganda. They've written an article on how you can avoid being taken in by these kind of fake videos. They created this one using Fake app, and they say there are many more developments on the way. It's getting easier and easier to get hold of technology that will allow you to create something like this very easily. They talk about we're heading for an infocalypse, which I've never heard of before, where all these deep fake videos mean that nobody knows what's true anymore. They've boiled it down to just a few points in this tweet here, talking about don't jump to conclusions, consider the source, check where else it's posted, because quite often that can give you a heads up as to whether or not it is a genuine tweet or image, or in this case, a video. This person says, this is so scary. How will we ever know what's real? Give them a year to perfect this, and we're all doomed to ignorance and even more polarization. Some people, they're really proving the point that people just don't pay enough attention. Notice that he sounds and looks like he had dental work. Listen and watch his left cheek. This is clearly someone who didn't watch to the end to see that explanation that it's not Barack Obama's words, it is the words of an actor impersonating him. Other people talking about this is nothing new. This is how they put Paul Walker and Carrie Fisher in movies after they had passed away. But the point of these kind of apps is that they are available to everyone. They don't need a huge amount of technological understanding. You know, movie makers have all of those sort of CGI capabilities, and this is just somebody with an app who has created this. And conspiracy theorists are asking, is there some video that's about to come out that the mainstream media wants us all to disbelieve, and they actually think this is all just one big conspiracy?
Emma James leaving us with several words of warning there. Thank you for bringing us Media Watch, and Kate Moody with business. That's it for us. Do stay tuned for more news coming up very shortly.